We are here today with Violet Bell. That is an Americana duo composed of Elizabeth Ross and Omar Ruiz Lopez. The album is called Shapeshifter, and you are listening to Country Pocket on WUSB Stony Brook. Guys, how are you doing today?
We're doing well. How are you doing, Trevor?
Excellent. The first song you just heard is called Fish to Catch. Guys, tell me a little bit about the relationship between mankind and the sea.
I love this.
Oh my gosh, how long do we get to talk for? Because you could talk for a century on that topic.
We
Um,
do not have a century.
Damn it. Okay. Well, I think this is our album Shapeshifter tells the story of the selkie, which is an old Celtic myth. And a selkie is a seal that can take off her skin and become human. And when you remove a selkie's skin while she's not wearing it, you can make her come home with you whether or not she wants to. So the story begins with the fisherman who we meet in the song Fish to Catch. And if you listen to the lyrics and you feel the vibe of the song, you can feel it's peaceful, but he's really lonely too. And, there are these lyrics, like in the bridge, she's talking about lost in the waves, there's a woman's face, and she's singing to me, and talking about his fear of nobody'd know except me and the sea if I never came home. This sort of lonely, isolated life. And, I think that in the Selkie story, the relationship between man and the sea is that the sea is this force of cosmic power and creativity, and freedom. And the fisherman is living in this land-bound world of human rules and structures and his own loneliness. And since we don't have a century, I will limit myself to that for the time being.
Yeah, there's this practical side of the relationship between humankind and the sea. There are resources there, quite literally fish to catch, but there's also that deeply spiritual side.
The vastness, the unknown, the
Subconscious.
subconscious. Yeah,
Yeah.
dreaming too.
Yeah.
So tell me why you guys chose, out of all the topics in the world, to do an album on the selkie.
I think it shows us.
Yeah, I remember we were. It was a couple of years ago. We were driving back from a tour, and we took 301 coming down from the Chesapeake Bay area towards down through Virginia to Chapel Hill, and we took 301 thinking we were going to avoid 95 traffic, and we didn't. And a shortcut we took from there was not a shortcut, but it did lead us to a music store where they had this banjo specialist that deals in banjos.
Banjo Dave.
And we got this banjo that neither of us play banjo at the time, and we both have since developed our own styles on it. But for Lizzie, I could immediately see this kind of aquatic vibe immediately coming out in what she was singing and playing. And the first song that I heard her write on it was Back to the Sea, which is, I think, the next track on the album after Fish to Catch.
Yeah, that banjo had songs in it. And I don't know, the first song that came out was Back to the Sea, and I realized that I was writing from the perspective of the selkie. And we didn't set out to write a suite of songs about a selkie. But then we wrote another song. I had come up with a verse and a melody, and Omar had come up with a fiddle part, and I remember walking into the house and hearing him play it, and being like, oh my god, that is the matching puzzle piece to this little couplet I have. And that was Fisherman's Daughter. And I think we sat down and we looked at each other and we were like, oh, there's this selkie story that wants us to tell it. And I don't know, are you familiar with Liz Gilbert at all?
No.
She wrote this book called Big Magic, and one of the ideas she talks about is that in creative processes, sometimes like this idea, it's whether you buy into it or not, it's a cool construction that ideas come to people and we have an opportunity to accept them or not. And if you don't accept the idea and make the idea will find somebody else. So I feel like the story kind of came and found us and was like, hey, I want you to tell me in this modern context. And, it has so many implications and interpretations for modern life, whether you look at the story in the context of society at large, or as if the characters, like the selkie and the fisherman and the sea and the land, were parts of yourself.
Yeah, tell me about how the selkie sort of winds up under the control of this man.
So part of the myth is that if you get a selkie's skin while she's not wearing it, you can make her come home with you. And in Celtic legends, selkies were male or female, and there are different stories based on what gender they were. But in this particular story, we've got a female selkie, and the fisherman is out on the water one night, and he doesn't realize that it's gotten kind of late, and he looks up, and he sees that a fog has fallen, and he can't see to find his way back to shore. So he listens for voices, because he thinks that if he hears the sound of people talking or singing, then he's going to be able to navigate back to land just by listening. And he hears people singing, so he rows in that direction. And he keeps on rowing, listening, and the fog lifts, and it's full night by now, and he sees, it's like silhouetted in the light of this full moon on this rock in the ocean, he sees a bunch of people having a naked dance party. And this is like Scotland in October, it's cold, he's way out on the water, he's never seen this rock before, even though he's fished and walked along it. So it's almost as if he's entered this sort of mystical liminal portal. And he remembers that the stories his mom told him when he was a kid about selkies, and how if you got one's skin while she wasn't wearing it, you could take her home. So he sits there, and he sneaks up and snatches one of the skins, and the selkies they're in human form, and they're putting their seal skins on one by one, and they're sliding back into the water. And one left. And she comes, she's looking for her skin everywhere, and she comes scrambling up over the rock, and she sees him with her skin in his hands, and she knows that there's nothing she can do. So they make a deal. And the fisherman he says, come live with me on land for 7 years, and then I'll give you back your skin and let you go back to the sea. And that is how the selkie ends up under the power of the fisherman. And in a lot of these stories, and in this story, the fisherman hides the selkie's skin. He actually ties it to a rock and throws it back into the ocean because he's so lonely, he never wants her to actually leave.
So we're going to hear a couple of songs now. The first one is I Am a Wolf. The second one is Mortal Like Me, and we will be right back.